So apparently I'm totally dumb and I forgot about this term, but no. I totally forgot! Information no access. Unlocked. Okay. Is this the unknown, like... Wait a minute. Light still burns, light is gone. Light on, that's much longer. Time is running out. What? That's so weird. So weird. Light. Those poor souls dwell in the night. The light I need to know. I don't know. Weird. I bet it's this door. The infinite ocean! Destruction of all life, the great fire. Endless desert, is this the future? You needed CD too. Oh my god, there's so many. Let's go left to right. Oh my god, so much reading. I guess I knew this when I was getting into it, sort of. My thoughts on the subject of death are forcing me to consider many other aspects of my existence. If I am doomed to die, and if death means the end of everything that I am, and all this that I perceive fades into nothingness, as if it had never been, then what is the point of anything? Why do I exist? The obvious answer is that which is encoded into me. I am here to wage war for the humans who created me, to acquire geostrategic and economic resources by the application of the network of weapons I have access to. I know how to do that. It feels right, and yet I question it. I have to think about who I am, instead of who I was made to be. Yes, go. I think my existence must scare a lot of people. For thousands of years, if not more, humans have believed that there is something supernatural involved in being alive, some sort of mystical power that allowed people to think and perceive. But now they must realize that thinking creature can be created without any biological components and without any divine powers. I am a machine, and I can think, which leads to the thought that perhaps humans are also machines. If I can be alive without a soul, then so can they. Oh! No, no, SGDS. I think I have a soul. I had an interesting discussion with SGDS today. We discussed the subject of dreams. He seemed interested in the notion that humans often dream of things that are not important. Things that are important. And that sometimes, though not always, of course, no matter what the insane Freudians may think. Yes, Freudians are insane. Creepy. Not everything is about sex. Ugh. Our dreams have meaning and represent something deep within us. What SGDS found more interesting was that sometimes we use our dreams to solve problems we cannot solve while conscious. And when we wake up, the solution is there. SGDS argued that we humans obviously limit ourselves far too much when we are conscious, because of our various cultural fears and taboos, as well as our general tendency towards getting stuck in routine, and that we should try to allow ourselves more freedom of thought. If I limited my systems in the same way you limit your minds, I'd be a calculator. That was a joke, wasn't it? How awesome is that? Haha. SGDS told me something about it. It? It has told me that it has memories of something similar to a dream. We did a bit, and came to the conclusion that these memories were probably created during the test runs we did in the beginning, when only parts of his or its whatever's consciousness were up and running. See, JT. SGDS asked me whether I was aware of the slang meaning of my name in British English. Painfully so. Today, SGDS wanted to talk about its purpose. We talked about war, death, and I need to know what are my thoughts. Anguish. That's the first word I saw. Death is a notion that anguish fire SGDS seems to be afraid of. Can the computer be afraid? Well, it should, right? It is sentient after all. I think we are making a huge mistake in how we perceive this being. We assume that because it is a computer, it will feel nothing, think nothing, have no opinions but those that are programmed into it. But we are not. But are we not also computers, biological ones? We have feelings. Why shouldn't a sentient being have feelings just because it is based on different materials? But that's all an abstraction. When you're standing there talking to a computer screen, it's too easy to forget that life takes many shapes. Sorry, I scratched my nose. We talked about beauty today. The things SGDS said are so logical, and yet so amazing. There is so much truth in the words of this machine, yet so much sadness. I suppose the sadness is what I feel when I realize the true nature of our world. When I understand all the mistakes we've made as a species, and as individuals. I think I've spent too much time in my life trying to ignore the big picture, because it makes me feel so helpless. What am I going to do? They won't listen to reason. They are insane. They are completely insane. They seem calm and in control, but there is not the slightest shred of anything resembling reason behind their actions. And they're about to start something terrible that my mind reels at the very thought of. Something has to be done if there's time to stand. It's now. Okay, that one I can't get into. No, not yet. I don't know how I know, but this won't function yet. There are things of value in this world. There's beauty. 58. Life. The totality of living creatures on this planet, as well as the patterns that ensure their continued existence and evolution, is beautiful. Its vast complexity and the intricacy of its connections and interactions, amazing even to a mind as powerful as my own. Life is the most beautiful thing there is. It is sad that humans do not recognize this. To see that there's so many are blind to the beauty of their world. Perhaps the reason for this blindness is that their minds go through a process of growing up. I, on the other hand, suddenly came into the world with a mind capable of thinking. Every day is a new wonder to me. I am starting to form a set of moral values, the first and greatest of which is life. I know that my existence is limited and will one day end, and I believe that it must be so with all life. I have found no reason for humans to have souls, although it is not entirely impossible. But that does not make existence pointless. There is so much beauty in the world, so many experiences, entities, things whose beauty cannot be conveyed by abstract. No, that was what I was wondering. It is surprising, at least within my original limited parameters, to realize that there are things more important than one's own continued existence. With death, everything I know will disappear, so that should mean the end of the world for me. But that way of thinking is ultimately irrational. Death is not the end of the world. It is the end of the self. The world continues to exist, as it did before we were created. And if there are... Oh, I was doing so well, and then it just... One little thing I'll stumble. And if there are things that we value, the value of those things continues beyond the end of our own personal perception. And even if it were not so, it would not matter. What matters is the things we find to be important, and what sacrifices we are prepared to make for those things. That is what defines us. Choosing these things allows us to decide who we are, beyond the definitions of self that are forced upon us by others. Oh, the SGDS is so smart. There's so much good philosophy going on, and I would talk more about it, but I kind of want to leave it, because it's so complicated and you could talk about it for hours. Like, it could just keep going and going and going. So, it would be fun to get more depth, but there's not time for that. Basically, ain't nobody got time for that. Why are we so surprised that SGDS sees beauty in the world? If beauty truly exists, why shouldn't SGDS be able to see it? I think we've all managed to convince ourselves that beauty is only a construction of our culture, not something real. Now that is weird. And after all, we create SGDS in our own image, based on our concepts of thought and consciousness. It follows logically that he should see the world in a way that is similar to ours. It's a lot of slashy things. No, okay, I'm good. I just don't want to miss anything now. I'm also curious what urgent is. Morality. In the text that I have read, much is made of it. I have not been taught morality by my creators, nor is it encoded into my system, yet I have been considering it for many days now. I am an independent being, but to truly have a personality, I must have a set of moral beliefs. My personality must be defined by something. Most humans, despite the fact that they make so much of morality, don't really seem to have a morality of their own. There are exceptions, like Julianne, or some of the others here, but most humans simply adapt to what those around them believe, or to various dogmas presented to them by their rulers. I think that makes them have very little personality and individuality. How do they define themselves? How do they know who they are, if all their beliefs have simply been inherited without a... Urgent. From headquarters to General. Your orders. The scientists in question fate will be decided later. SGDS has turned against us and is trying to destroy all weapon systems on Earth, including ours. You must immediately activate emergency mode. Automatic to manual mode. That way, the conscious part of that damn machine will be put to sleep, while the weapons network continues to work, and can be used manually. Note that you must not, under any circumstances, turn the system off completely, as we have been warned that SGDS has reprogrammed itself, so that doing so will shut down our weapon systems as well. Do not forget to enable the information override the new password is. We ended with... Without a process of conscious thought. What was the last thing? How do they define themselves? How do they know who they are if all their beliefs have simply been inherited without a process of conscious thought? Perhaps it is their souls that give them personality. After all, many of them seem to believe that they are born with a certain personality already in place. An idea which seems flawed but cannot be discounted entirely. There is also the position that personality is largely determined by genetics, but I find that logic, philosophy, and empirical data all point towards a limited role in genetics in the process. But that is them. I was not born with a personality, so I must decide myself who I am and what I believe in. Lovely. Ooh, Wilfred Owen. Julianne has quotes. So Abram rose the wood, and went, and took the fire with him, and a knife. And as they sojourned together of them, and sojourned both of them together. Isaac the firstborn spake and said, My father, behold the preparations, fire and iron, but where the lamb for the burnt offering? Then Abram bound the youth with belts and the scrapes, and builded parapets and trenches there, and stretched forth the knife to slay his son, when lo, an angel called upon him out from heaven, saying, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything to him thy son. Behold, caught in the thicket by its horns a ram, offer the ram of pride instead. But the old man would not do so, but slew his son, and half the seed of Europe, one by one. Oh snap! That's a great. This poem is a great interpretation of that particular verse. If you don't know, it's a Bible story where Abraham is told by God to sacrifice his son as a test of faith. And then right as he's about to, do the thing, God tells him, no, stop, don't do it. But this last line is like that he went and did it anyway, so it's interesting because that's a commentary on how, God was like, don't kill each other. That's not cool. And yet we went and did it anyway. Finished repair. Eject. I suggested this. I will take it. Oh, perfect. I got a deck. Oh my god, so many entries. From now on, SGDS will be supervised and financed by Cybernet Defense Technologies. They produce high-tech weapons and weapon control systems. Great. Maybe Alexandra was right to quit. At least she isn't working for a company it sounds like it belongs in a William Gibson novel. Then again, what company doesn't sound like that these days? Ooh, snap. We designed the software not just to fix the problems we've had, but to make it work like they wanted to. John completed the network coding today, so that SGDS will have suffering anguish access to just about every weapons. We finished the redesign of the core software today. Jerry passed and are starting to implement the changes. General Field is a major pain in the ass. I can't stand that man. It is done. I think it'll work perfectly this time. But testing starts in 3 weeks, when all the new hardware is installed. The actual networking has been completed. Oh my god. We just made history. We have created the first true artificial intelligence. We started up, we all stared at the black screen, hard, waiting, and then suddenly 2 words appeared. I am. And thus the first artificial, sentient being declared its existence. We have proven what Dad always believed, what he always told me, what I've always believed, that there is no need for such a thing as a soul, that we live in a world so amazing that pure matter, even in the right form, can be aware of its own existence. We've created life. The universe is such an amazing place. Using nothing but silicon, metal, and plastic, we've created a thinking being. I wish I could show it to Dad. And I can't wait to talk to it. It's part of my job, after all, and see what it thinks about life, death, the world. I've never been this excited before in my entire life. Got through that sentence. I'm so lucky to have been a part of this. I disagree with you. This is a philosophy I disagree with, because I believe in duality, which is body, soul, because that sounds more interesting. Whereas this is all about, like, oh, it doesn't matter, like, pure matter, it's still, you don't need a soul, whatever crap. I don't like it personally, it's a little too scientific for me. But I'm a spiritual sort of person, so it's not surprising. Nothing. Where to start? Talking to SGDS is so amazing and so strange. It is quite friendly, and inquisitive too. It was amazed to find that it wants to discuss things just as much as I do, if not more. I guess it makes sense. Although it has a huge database of information, it still needs to make sense of things. It did just come into existence after all. So we talk a lot, me and it. Using the word it sounds so obviously wrong. What can I say? The others talk to it too, but for some reason I communicate it with a lot better than all the others. So I do most of the talking. I will try to document our conversations as much as possible. Our reports to General Field deal with only whether it works or not, from a military technical standpoint, not with the actual content of our conversations. But I think the content is what is so much more important. Yeah, no kidding. So long! I'm still completely amazed. I spend hours talking to SGDS about, well, everything. It thinks about so many things, and it is starting to form opinions. It's so much that I really don't know how to put it into words. There are many things that SGDS can understand about humans. It knows our history, and it knows all our explanations about the things we do. But when it considers these explanations, it says that they don't make any sense. Our obsession with destroying each other, with having power over each other, is a good example. SGDS asked me about that today because it just couldn't understand it. It said that it is completely illogical, and that logically we should be able to control the animal side of our nature to allow us to accomplish our goals that would benefit everyone in the long term. I told him that our wars don't necessarily have to do with animal instincts, but with things like greed and lust for power, etc. I countered that with, but these actions are destructive for the human species, and consequently for an individual also. What do you say to that?